Pentagon has released a video recently of the raid that led to the death of Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The video shows U.S. forces approaching the compound and destroying it with standoff munitions. Release comes just days after U.S. President Donald Trump announced the death of al-Baghdadi, describing the operation in detail. Remember, Baghdadi died by detonating an explosives laden vest when he fled U.S. forces into a dead-end tunnel during the attack which took place in the Idlib region in northwest Syria. Security forces in Chile trained water cannons and tear gas on demonstrators as the unrest that gripped the country for almost a fortnight showed no signs of slowing down. Drone videos showed protesters once again taking to the streets of the capital Santiago, despite the government's decision to scrap two major international summits so that they can focus on the grievances of the demonstrators. Chilean President Sebastián Piñera has announced that the cancellation of the APEC Trade Summit and the COP25 Climate Summit amid the ongoing protests. The APEC Summit was to be held in November, while the COP25 Summit was to take place in December. U.S. President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping were supposed to meet APEC Summit and possibly also sign a trade deal with the leaders. The White House has said that it would be looking for a different venue and sign a deal within the same time frame. Hundreds of Catalan separatists marched in central Barcelona, cutting off traffic. There were also demonstrations in front of the headquarters of the pro-union center Right Party and the Conservative People's Party as they called for the release of jail leaders for Catalan independence. The pro-independence group CDR organized the protest, calling for a chestnut roast against Spain. Hundreds of kilometers of Dutch highways were clogged with traffic jams as construction workers drove trucks, diggers and cranes to protest against moves to cut nitrogen pollution. They say that the measures could have a big impact on their jobs. Construction workers and farmers have been angered by a court ruling that found the country was emitting too much nitrogen in violation of the European law. Many individuals feel that the farmers are being unfairly blamed for a problem caused by the whole of Dutch society. Tahrir Square in Baghdad has become a hot spot for the anti-government protest in Iraq. Thousands of people defied the military-imposed curfew in the city to flock the area on the sixth day of the protest. Pro-demonstration volunteers have even set up food supplies for the protest. Medical practitioners have also turned up at the site to look after those injured during the clashes with the police. More than 250 people have been killed since the unrest started on October 1st. Pope Francis has said that his thoughts are with the martyred people of Iraq following the violent protests this month that have left dozens dead and wounded. He called on the Iraqi authorities, together with the international community, to search for fair solutions to the situation facing Iraqis. The Pope made his comments during his weekly audience with thousands of faithful in St. Peter's Square. Anti-government protests in Iraq have till now killed over 240 people. Kurdish demonstrators chained themselves to the United Nations gate in Geneva to protest against the Turkish offensive in Syria, denouncing the UN silence and failure to act. Protesters held signs and chanted anti-Erdogan slogans a few meters away from the UN European headquarters entrance. After 45 minutes of demonstrations with pressure from the police, protesters unchained themselves from the gate and joined the other demonstrators across the road. Hundreds continue to protest against across multiple cities in Lebanon. This hours after a senior official close to former Prime Minister Saad Hariri said he was ready to return and form a new government under his own terms. It's being said that the new government can quickly implement reforms to stave off economic collapse. However, protesters in Beirut, Saida and Tripoli kept chanting anti-government slogans despite some backing Hariri's non-sectarian government.
Special Operations Task Force Afghanistan.
President Trump presented the nation's highest military honor to a green beret who helped save 4 critically wounded comrades and prevented the lead element of a special operation force from being overrun in Afghanistan. The Medal of Honor was presented to Master Sergeant Matthew O. Williams of Texas, who still serves in the Army. The events leading to the honor occurred in April 2008 during a mountainside firefight that lasted several hours when Williams' team and about 100 Afghan commandos were attacked by insurgents waiting above them. Police in South Africa used water cannons and made a number of arrests during an operation to disperse protesting refugees. Videos posted on social media show the intensity of protest. Around 100 refugees and asylum seekers were arrested after staging a prolonged sit-in near the United Nations Refugee Agency in Cape Town. Refugees and asylum seekers have been camping for weeks now, asking to be moved out of South Africa, where they no longer feel safe after a wave of xenophobic violence. Rafael Mariano Grossi of Argentina has been chosen as the new head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency. Grossi has succeeded the late Yukiya Amano to the post. Russia's ambassador to international organizations in Vienna, Mikhail Ulyanov, tweeted the information that the agency's board of governors has selected Grossi as its new director general. Grossi is also Argentina's ambassador to the Vienna-based nuclear watchdog agency. A court in Myanmar has sentenced 5 members of a traditional theatrical troupe to a year in prison for poking fun at the military. The members of the Peacock Generation Thangyat group were arrested in April after a series of performances to celebrate the Buddhist New Year. During the show, they wore army uniforms and mocked military involvement in politics and business. The 5 were convicted under a law prohibiting the circulation of information that could endanger or demoralize members of the military. French charity rescue ship Ocean Viking has docked at the Sicilian port of Pozzallo in Italy. 104 migrants on board have been allowed to disembark after spending 12 days at sea. Amongst those aboard were 2 pregnant women and 41 minors under the age of 18. Italy's Interior Ministry agreed to let the ship dock after France and Germany agreed to take in 70 of those migrants. The project coordinator said that it was completely inhuman to keep the migrants at sea and said that the treatment to the migrants was disgusting. A modern floating dock to repair Panamax-type ships was inaugurated in the port of Havana after being built and transferred from China to Cuba at a cost of $34 million. The floating structure was manufactured by the Chinese company National Machinery Import and Export Corporation located in Shanghai and will be paid almost entirely through a bilateral credit agreement. The island government will pay 85% of the dock thanks to a loan granted by Beijing to Havana for a period of 15 years. Twitter's chief executive Jack Dorsey has said his company will ban political advertising on its platform next month. The move comes amid growing pressure on social media companies to block attempts to steer elections with false information. In a statement on Twitter, CEO Jack Dorsey said the platform believed political message reach should be earned, not bought. Social media companies, including Twitter, rival Facebook, face growing pressure to stop selling ads that spread inaccurate information. A fast-moving wildfire threatened thousands of homes and the Reagan Presidential Library outside Los Angeles. An earlier blaze has been consuming the shrub-covered hills near the Getty Center Museum in West Los Angeles. In Riverside County, east of Los Angeles, a wind-driven brush fire charred 100 acres, forcing the evacuation of 2 mobile home parks. People and their pets fled a fast-moving wildfire outside Los Angeles as dry Santa Ana winds blew across the region. A fire erupted in the Ventura County's valley and quickly grew into the most consequential of several new blazes that sprang up around the region, prompting evacuation of an estimated 7,000 homes, affecting about 26,000 people. At an animal shelter near the blaze, cats and dogs and rabbits took shelter with their owners.
Burn up a lot quick. One of our neighbors are going to find
The death toll in the landslide in western Cameroon has climbed to 42. Rescue teams continue to look for any survivors in the rubble of destroyed houses. Heavy rains had caused a landslide on Monday and swept away 11 homes in the residential area. Rains have continued beyond the end of Central Africa's rainy season, causing severe flooding, which has displaced nearly 30,000 people in Cameroon's neighboring countries as well.
Have been retrieved and taken to the Bafoussam Regional Hospital mortuary.
Wake up. She may be waking up, so we might be at the area right where
Dallas Medical Center this week live streamed on Facebook a portion of awake brain surgery. Surgery was performed on 25-year-old Jenna to remove a mass of blood vessels in her brain that had affected her ability to talk. Thousands watched the procedure that lasted about 45 minutes. A surgeon explained that the live streaming of the operation had educational value.
Yeah, so typically these brain surgeries can be done while the patient is asleep. Oh, maybe asking her to wake up. She may be waking up.
37 years after the Falklands War, Britain has shown signs of reconciliation with Argentina. A tiny statue of the Madonna taken at the end of the conflict has been returned to its home country, Argentina. The statue, one of Argentina's most revered icons, was taken by the British after the war ended on April 2nd, 1982. The handover ceremony was presided over the Pope Francis, who was originally from Argentina. The 2019 Global Smart Supply Chain Summit has opened in Beijing. The summit brings together experts to focus their discussions on artificial intelligence, big data, 5G technology and other new technologies to build an intelligent and green supply chain. This year, the summit has attracted over 2,000 professionals from various scientific fields. The venue also shows the real scenes of a smart logistic park using the 5G technology.